Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Flip the Script, SCRIP without the T. I made that up just now. I am Dr. J. Joey with the wingman, Cameron, and we've got, a special guest because, hey, we got one who didn't run away. Just kidding. Abby Walls is with us today, and Abby, if y'all, you don't remember, but I think we do. It was back in the podcast we did on adrenals, and we had a call in from a Birmingham resident, and that was Abby. Abby wanted to know if we could do a little touch on perimenopause, which, Cameron, if you and I are lucky, we probably shall not experience in our lifetime.
Hope not.
So we bring in a professional, right? Because Abby experienced some of these symptoms at a very early age. 20s, Abby? No, just kidding.
Goodness.
Okay, but let's just say early anyway, right? And
30s at least.
Okay.
So.
And Abby's started the protocol shortly after that, and I said, hey, Abby, would you mind telling the people what you experienced and what you went through? Because,
oh my goodness.
Again. Go ahead, Ab. Tell them,
just the amount of doctors that I saw, and just, everybody just wants to treat symptoms, and,
And a lot of them.
And a lot of them. And I see just a lot of friends and ladies my age all over social media talking about, getting through these symptoms. And for me, I just knew that there had to be something, better out there. And thank goodness I found it.
And again, too, Cameron, we were talking about how a lot of these endocrine-related issues are coming at earlier and earlier stages, male and female. We're experiencing that now. And here's a great example because, again, we're talking about perimenopause, all right? So we're talking about an early endocrine issue that's really starting to show up earlier and earlier every 10 years.
Right.
Right? And so we want to talk about the correlation of that and the connection with the endocrine disruptors, which we've been talking about the last couple of podcasts, because we're going to find the correlation here. And the other beautiful thing about this, when you called in about the during that adrenals, mm-hmm. and I said then there's a direct correlation between the adrenals and, as you're going to find out too, the gut. So we're going to hopefully give you some insight and enlighten a little bit of some of these causations, because that's what we have to address. Because again, if it's earlier and earlier and earlier, what's changed? Really? What has changed from I always roll back to the 70s and 80s. Lifestyle, diet, right? So it's all going to come down to our environment, and we're going to educate you on that, because these are the things that you can change, right? Because it's a change in the system that's occurred, obviously, if 1,000+ years of evolution has had a steady episode or reaction through time. And then suddenly now we start seeing all these things popping up a lot earlier. It's not the new normal, as we're going to talk about. So let's go into that. Abby, and then jump in with this one here with, as we try to attempt to simplify this for you. I love simplicity. That's why my books have, a simple guide to longevity with vitality and a common sense approach in my second book.
You made this very easy.
Yes. So here we are now, simplified. If you have endocrine issues with symptoms such as, let's roll this, Abby, hot flashes, night sweats, hair loss, you were experiencing that one, acne too.
Oh, goodness.
Adult onset
I never had acne, teen years or anything, and then about 38 years old, it just shows itself.
Right.
And
sudden adult
where did
onset.
you come from?
And, we talk about the skin rashes and also the spots, dark spots on the skin.
Hyperpigmentation.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep. And irritability, I understand, I hear. Okay. Irritability, restlessness, right?
I
you
had
have
them
difficulty.
all.
Yeah.
And just
anxiety, right?
And I would get told, this is just normal for, your age. And I
Yeah,
didn't
really?
like that
Yeah,
answer.
right.
I didn't like that
They used to be
answer.
normal for the 70-year-old, and
Right.
now it's going to be okay and normal for the
Right.
30-something-year-old. No, please,
I did
people.
not enjoy
The new
waking up,
normal.
every night to change clothes because I had soaked, soaked my pajamas from sweating, so I have to get
Yeah.
up every night and change about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
And overnight, basically overnight, you go from cold-natured to extremely hot-natured, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean, just like that when,
I forgot what
most
cold
women,
felt like. I forgot what cold
yes,
felt like.
which used to irritate you, right?
Oh
And
my
now you were
goodness.
living for it. So, again, ladies, these symptoms sound familiar? This podcast is for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, let's start with the question. What affects the endocrine system, right? Either positively or negatively. And then we'll address the underlying cause. So let's look at that, all right? So start off with that. Start here. When I have a patient such as Abby comes in, I want to simplify everything like I was talking about earlier. All right. So, and we talked about this too, Cameron, we just did the podcast on the gut. Know that there's a correlation here. You have to fix the infestation. When I'm talking about, we talk about the infestation either through the skin or through the gut, right? If we're going to stop the inflammation. And basically, perimenopause is inflammation. Okay? Hello, I'm sweating like a one-legged man at an ass-kicking contest. That might be your clue, right?
Right.
Okay. So, strengthen the endocrine system. So we want to break that down, the one-legged man. I don't know where that came from. Okay.
Yeah, trying to hold it
I
together.
don't know. But anyways, strengthen your endocrine system. And what are we talking about? We're talking about organs and glands involved here again, people. So but you've got to supply the body with the nutrients. And this is where you're going to talk about how, that magnesium made all
Oh,
the
my
difference in the
goodness.
world, right? And so we need the vitamins. We need the minerals.
I've taken so many different magnesiums. This is not just your
Run-of-the-mill.
everyday magnesium or, I can't tell you how many different forms I took. And when I started this, literally 48 hours later, I felt like a
Yes.
completely different person.
So what was different? Of course, we're talking about Easy Mag, right? The new Easy Mag's been out about a year now. Because the difference is it's organic magnesium. It's plant-based magnesium. There's 27 different blends, if you will. And so it's understandable. Magnesium oxide is not going to do this, people. All right. Number one, it's very hard to absorb. But even your citrates and your picolinates and these are those magnesiums. They're great for a lot of things. All right. But they're isolated salts. So we're not necessarily going to get the effect, especially with the sleep aid that we talk about when we're looking at multiple plant-based, highly absorbable forms of magnesium. So what we've got to do, again, so we're looking at the minerals, and then identify and remove the bad or negative lifestyle habits.
Right.
And I'm sorry, it's part of our nature today. Replace those with good habits. Chris, you are the bomb. So, again, let's break this down. Cam, you're familiar with how we look at this. My treatment approach, when Abby presented to me with these symptoms, simplify, simplify, simplify. Organize the thoughts and the process first. This is what I do. So I tend to break this down into basically 3 different sections. The system involved, we'll look into that. The endocrine system. What organs are involved? Well, really, a lot of them. We got the skin with the acne we're talking about. The stomach, we're going back to the stomach again with the inflammation. We have the reproductive, and then, of course, that energy system and the connection with the adrenal glands. So there's my organs. And then thirdly, I look at it and say, okay, glands. What glands? We have an endocrine issue. What glands are involved in endocrine? In this case, we're looking at, of course, ovaries, right? But this is where most doctors will stop. There's the correlation. The 4 primary endocrine communicators are between the pituitary, thyroid, most importantly, the adrenal glands, and then, of course, testes in the male, ovaries in the female. So there's a direct connection between all these glands. They're all communicating together, right? So we want to bring homeostasis in balance to all of them. So that's the approach. But now, here's the issue, Abby, why you had the difficulty. The adrenals I consider to be the primary one here.
Okay.
And nobody learns adrenal fatigue in medical school.
Nobody
Insurance
mentioned
company, right?
adrenals.
Okay.
Nobody.
Yeah. Talk to me on that one. They didn't because they don't learn it in school. So therefore, for a lot of doctors, it doesn't exist. You bring it up to them, and they'll look at you like a deer in the headlights, right? Or they'll change the subject on you. And it's not necessarily their fault. Insurance companies don't have a billing code for it, so they're not going to teach you in school if they're not getting paid. Hold on 1 second for me, Chris, if you would. So on that, we want to address that. So let's break that down first. Yes, brother, you can. And that is start with number one, the system, the endocrine system, all right? With that, let's look at what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. All right. What actually causes damage to the endocrine system first? Because that's what we got.
Right.
We got a damaged system. We got a system that's breaking down early. Things like the endocrine disruptors. We've talked a lot about the phthalates.
The phthalates,
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, microplastics, stuff like that.
Stuff come in, the
Stuff
chemicals
they put in
everywhere.
scents.
Abby, you know. Well, you know, you were in the
I was in aesthetics.
aesthetics field, right?
Right.
Yes.
And that's what was killing me. It was I had access to the absolute best treatments, the best of the best, doctors that were doing these treatments, the best of the best skincare, and still could not get my skin under control.
Because sadly, in that business, we're looking topical
Right.
primarily, right?
Right.
We're not looking at causation there. We're just
Right.
trying to cover a bunch of stuff
And
up.
I've seen it in so many people.
Wow,
and
that's
now that
amazing
I look
too.
back,
Okay.
I'm sitting here thinking, now I know why we probably weren't getting the results that we were getting. They were being consistent and they were using the products, but there was more going on.
Full circle now, right?
Right.
You're
Then-
comprehending because that's basically what we
Absolutely.
started. We started working from the inside, right?
Right.
Yes. Well, that's a pretty neat coincidence, if you
Right.
would, right?
Right.
That you came out of that profession because I think now you've moved on after you found, the light, I guess, so as you say. But so, and another major disruptor, people, soy. We talked about that. This is another one of those, government, what's it called?
Conspiracies, psyops. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but these are this is one of those that the government pays the farmers to.
Subsidiaries.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Right, so it's everywhere, and of course, soy mimics the makeup, the molecule mimics identical estrogen. So it binds to the estrogen receptor sites.
Yeah, I've heard
Do you
that.
see now
Okay.
where that disruptor is coming out of our
Right.
food source? Not only that, they put soy in everything, damn it. They use it for a filler. It's everywhere.
Yeah, they put
right?
it in Taco Bell's
Yeah.
ground beef.
No.
Right. I mean,
really?
well,
Soybean,
probably. Hold on, I got some good ones here. So think about this is everywhere, right? Binds to the estrogen receptor sites, and that makes us, everybody. Yes, we'll talk about that. But before I get to that, here's another big one, though. Chris, you were just talking about toothpaste. The halogens. Remember we talked about the halogen receptor sites are the highest in the thyroid, the breast, and the ovaries. And the halogen, I want you to think of it as like a stop sign shaped receptor site. It wants iodine, but we're not giving it iodine because we don't do iodine in this country, people. But we're filling it full of the halogens that we'll talk about, which is, of course, your fluoramine, your chlorine, and your bromine. And then, of course, the pro-inflammatory diet. Everything's a carb, right? Everything's a processed carb. So here again, we're creating a gut issue and an adrenal issue with this high sugar up and down. You seeing the correlation
Right.
on this right here?
Right.
All right. So this is what we want to get under control. This is what's gone out of control over the last 50 years. So the halogens that we were talking about, is this coincidental? Think about this. Where are the highest halogen receptor sites in the body at? The breast, the ovaries, and the thyroid. So, Abby, when it comes to females, the three primary female cancers are
That's exactly what I
those
was
three,
thinking.
right? Coincidental
Right.
again? No. So think about it. They want iodine, and we're not giving them iodine. Okay, where are we getting iodine from? Well, they pulled it out of the bread, number one, and they replaced it with that other halogen. We'll talk about bromine. Okay, it's not in salt anymore. So basically, here again, the environment is creating most of our issue. So if we can enlighten people, here we go. So again, here's what I want to talk about here. When you have the estrogen dominant issues,
Right.
what do we got now? We got periods, early periods now in females, right? Abby, this is increased since you started. Increased female characteristics. You've heard the term that wasn't around 20, 30 years ago, Chris, soy boys, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, right? But you know what I'm talking about when I throw the word out there. It's sad.
Yeah.
But it's gotten to where, literally, we talk about this in the profession. The last 30, 40 years, it's getting a little harder to tell the male from the female from the back. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go with that. So again, increase your estrogens. What do you decrease, Abby? Increase estrogens, probably dropping progesterone. And you had a problem with that, right? So with the
I
progesterones,
had a horrible problem with that. And again, if I were in the medical field, I'd probably be really upset with how much money I spent on my education, because every single doctor that I spoke to before I mentioned progesterone just shrugged it off and nope, that's not your problem. Didn't check or anything. I finally found somebody that did check it and took it seriously.
It was a game changer, right?
But it was, I'm embarrassed to even say how many just brushed it off. And no, that's not something we even care to look at.
well, that's the way the hormones work.
Right.
If you dominate on one side, you're going to suppress another side,
Right.
So that has to be considered. And I know it's really tough, especially some states are worse than others, where it's just everything. Female is estrogen and male is testosterone. And no, we all have balanced hormones. All right, not just the major estrogen, testosterone. So we have to look at the correlation. Same thing with men, progesterone as well. Guys, you need to have your progesterone levels tested, because they're also necessary for the balance to increase the utilization of testosterone as well. Then we also have the other issues, right? We also have how about animals today, right? With the antibiotics in them and the steroids put into them, we consume them.
Right.
We're accumulating these hormones and these antibiotics, right? So again, here is the environment, the toxicity to the system itself. So now let's bounce off to number 2, which is the organs. So now when we start looking at organs involved in perimenopause, stomach's an organ, people. And that's what we're talking about. We have to fix the gut. So there's the inflammation and the infestation. If you don't think I'm spot on with that, ask somebody with IBS. What happens when they stress? And then, we also talked about this when we were talking about the gut the other day. The biliary system is included in here. Gallbladder and liver.
Oh,
Okay?
guess what? I don't have my gallbladder.
Right?
I haven't had it for a while.
Okay. Interesting, huh?
Right,
See the
right.
correlation? I think I mentioned that in the podcast on the gut. Yes, just even last week. People, the gallbladder, you need it. Don't let them just take it, okay? Interesting, right? Because the correlation between that and what you're experiencing with the perimenopause, how about this interesting fact? Estrogen-dominant women tend to have gallbladder issues, lose the gallbladder. So here's a sign early on if you're looking at, Abby, does this kind of surprise you now where we had the estrogen-dominant perimenopause coming in early, right?
It does.
There's a correlation here, people. Look at the body. It's telling you a story. So then we got the skin, right? In this condition here, that's also an organ. Hair involvement, a lot of hair loss, and then the sweat glands.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Doc, I can see a group of people outside with posters say, "Save at your shop, save the baby gallbladder."
Yes. Save those things. Because, Abby and I were talking about this, it's like her symptoms came in 15 years later, right?
Right.
So this is what I say. Sometimes these things are not necessarily immediate, but there is a connection. And, of course, then we have the reproductive system with the ovaries and the uterus. And again, we talk about this over and over again, Cameron, all autonomic disorders. See the correlation here. We have autonomic disorders going through the roof, right? Okay, they've increased 200% since the mid-'80s, all right? And then we also have this early onset of these endocrine-related perimenopause issues, right? They hold a common denominator here, people, and that is the organ is the stomach, all right, the gut, and, of course, the gland, the adrenal glands. And everybody misses this, but here's the connection, because the adrenals are where they don't register in the medical community. But the gut has that major connection.
Right.
Let's talk about that. All right. Now what you've got to do is you've got to get the correct foods in. Again, Abby, we talked about this. Those minerals, the magnesium that made all the difference in the world for you, the Easy Mag, shut down the night sweats.
Oh, I keep a backup bottle of this magnesium just because I'm not going to run out of it. I'm not going to have a day without it.
Yes, I know. And that's off the radar for most people understanding the correlation between those. And then, of course, the vitamins. We know the B vitamins, the B core, Ken mentioned it. There's your energy driver. But so the stomach, it has to be healthy enough to assimilate it. So when we talked about the gut last week, we talked about how you got to go in there and clean out the system, ladies. The accumulation over time. You have to assimilate these nutrients as well. So this is doable, all right? It's not difficult. What we talk about? I think it was an 8-week program or something like that to clean this whole system
Right.
out. Abby, you went on that, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. So, we had to start there. We had to start cleaning out the
It
system.
was so easy though.
Thank
I
you.
know a lot of people, get a little bit nervous when they hear even the word protocol. Just from even, when I sold skincare, we had a protocol. And when you'd say that word, people just kind of got timid. But this was so easy. And it wasn't, a million different things.
No.
I mean, I think, I don't even know, maybe 6 things that
Yeah.
fixed this.
Yeah. And, the protocol's not forever, people. All right. And it's just a little responsibility. But hey, a little bit of responsibility to get you out of this mess, which sadly said, if you were informed with this, you could have accepted the responsibility earlier, right? You wouldn't have to go through this short-term protocol
Right.
to get us back to where we need to be, which is in a healthier state early on. So again, when we're looking at this, think about endocrine organs. What are they? They're hormone regulators. They just need a little help, both nutritionally and environmentally, without any interference, right?
Right.
So where's the interference at? Well, we talked about it earlier. The interference is in these endocrine disruptors, if you would, Chris. Yes. So again, not the endocrine interference like the endocrine disruptors, the soy, the fluorine, the chlorine. We've been through it all. But also avoid those medications.
Yeah.
You got to watch for those medications because, listen, lifestyle habits and anything that's going to change the body's natural physiology, which is where, how I am with the physiology. That's why I get real agitated with cholesterol when you mess with people's cholesterol. I get super agitated when you mess with somebody's gut, all right? These are the way it's been since the beginning of time, the same thing with the hormones, all right? So when we look at drugs like antibiotics, all right, they affect the stomach. They're going to affect the ability to absorb these nutrients. And they create the leaky gut that we were talking about and the inflammation there, Cameron. And then, so the PPIs, everybody's on some kind of antacid. If you're on an antacid, you're going to have a terrible time with perimenopause because
Okay.
you can't absorb these minerals, the magnesium
makes
that we were
sense.
talking about, right? And birth control. Damn. What some people don't understand here is that, so let's say you go on birth control. 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And then you decide, hey, you know what? We're going to have a baby. Well, maybe not as soon as you think if we have to detoxify all those years of the medication toxicity, right? And then how about foods? Here again, when I'm talking about interference, the number one primary one is dairy, loaded up with the steroids and the hormones. A patient of mine, Stab, a true story, right? Started a period at age 9, okay? Spooky. But even then, every year, the onset date of menstruation has become earlier and earlier, Abby.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so now you got 1,000+ years of basically around the mid-teens for menstruation starts. And now we're going, and the 9-year-old, by the way, we were able to halt it. What we did, her sisters were patients of mine and her mom. So what we did, we stopped all dairy and put her on organic chicken only, right? Primarily. Okay, so there was your correlation. Thank God. I mean, that's how devastating to a 9-year-old. But so let's go back for a second. But what doctors are looking at today now, and here's their excuses. Well, it's kind of like the new normal. Normal,
It
know
doesn't
what I'm
have to be
saying?
normal unless
No,
we
you
can-
don't. You
unless
don't just
we
have a new
call it
normal
that.
after
Yeah.
thousands of years, right? The new normal is the way our lifestyle. That's what we're trying to educate to prevent and change. So we got the glutens, we got the wheats, we got the grains, we got processed anything, right? So starting to see a correlation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get to these glands, and then we're kind of wrapping it down here. I know we're getting a little long-winded like I do, but glands involved. Well, of course, the ovaries. We know. That's the difference between the male and the female, and that's why the perimenopause is in the female. However, the adrenals, to me, are the game changer. Why? Well, you can live without your thyroid. You can live without your ovaries. You don't live without your adrenals. So let's just start making some sense out of all this. Now, there's no medication for the adrenals, so it's not being taught in school, right? But
That
there is
makes
for the
sense.
thyroid. So they'll beat that thyroid up on you real quick. All right. You got the symptoms of the thyroid. I think you have a
Oh
history
my
of that.
goodness. I was getting hormone pellets, and they ask you to fill out the symptom survey before you get your pellet each time. And before I left the appointment, they gave me a prescription for something for my thyroid, and asked, what was this for? And they said, well, because you said you were having episodes of hot flashes.
No. So just because of a symptom
Right.
of,
Needless to say, I did not
just
take
go ahead
it.
and yeah, right. And then they put you on something on thyroid medication, which of course weakens the thyroid, and then you have to just continuously increase the dose, right?
Right.
Oh boy, symptoms again, symptoms. So that's why I said, but what do the ovaries, the adrenals, and the thyroid have in common? They love iodine. They don't get it in American diets. We're taking it out of everything. Instead, they're giving us, again, those fluorine, chlorine, and bromine.
Right.
Right? Let's touch on another subject real quick that has a correlation if you look here. The PCOS, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, right?
I struggled
Listen,
with this
back
too.
when there was iodine, back in the late 18 and early 1900s, there was a solution called Lindig solution, all right? The French guy, right? It was very common. It was used throughout. Of course, it was France, but it was used here as well. And there was no fibrocystic ovarian and no fibrocystic breast related issues. Very few
Wow.
back then. That was iodine,
Yeah.
right? We don't have it anymore. But with the PCOS, there's a correlation. Cam, you knew the twins. Remember, they had the PCOS issues. They were 17, right?
18, 19.
Yeah, 7, 18, 18. But that links with the metabolic syndrome, okay? And remember, one of them was having the patches on the skin, right? So PCOS. But this is a sugar handling problem with a direct correlation with type 2 diabetes, perimenopause, all right? So we're rounding this, hopefully we're getting down. But if you would, Chris, yeah, let's take it to the next level, which is that correlation there to the adrenals again. Because here's the thing, adrenals regulate estrogens, okay? It's one of the things that they do. They help with the body as the ovaries start to shut down and decrease their function and become compromised. The adrenals kick in to help to regulate the estrogen for the female. But what happens with a burned out, stressed adrenal system?
Right.
Okay? Because that's what the adrenals do. They regulate stress emotionally, physically, and environmentally. So why we're seeing the problem with the menopause so bad, and of course the perimenopause so early, which I write about in my first book, Light Your Fire, the adrenals are compromised because of the fact that the stress levels, the high processed carb, increased cortisol, sugar handling problem associated with our diets.
Okay, so is this also maybe the reason that I'm seeing these same ladies I'm talking about? But everybody's struggling with the cortisol face.
Cortisol face, which is, explain that one to me. I don't know
Just,
if I've heard
the
that.
puffy.
The water
Puffy base
retention. The water retention.
Can't get rid of it no
Good
matter
point.
what you do.
Good point.
You weren't drinking the night before, but you still have,
Yes.
all
the
this
puffy,
inflammation in the face.
Inflamed. You're throwing gas on the fire.
Yes.
Again, the skin tissue. But the same thing too, when you think about it, it's the same thing with the blood pressure related issue, right? It's when you address the adrenals and you drop that water weight, right? You drop the blood pressure and of course the puffiness that you're experiencing.
Right.
Because the adrenals regulate through aldosterone, the water retention within the body. So now you follow how these correlate together. Good point. Now, cortisol throws fire on anything. The skin, like you were just talking
Right.
about. The endocrine glands, digestion, IBS, right? People with that. And, of course, hormonal. That's what we're talking about here, period. So increased cortisol equals what? Inflammation, just like you were talking about. I love that cortisol face I
Right.
call it. Okay, I learned something today. All right. So, again, cortisol is increased with that high carb diet, especially that processed carb, because it increases the blood sugar issues, and we wind up
makes
with
sense.
the hypoglycemia, and that causes cortisol to kick in and offsets the system. So it throws fire on anything that cortisol touches. Increased symptoms like IBS, And of course, you were just talking about with the skin and the acne, hot flashes, fatigue, hair loss. So but that's the thing with the thyroid. So yes, the thyroid's involved here because we have things like weight gain with perimenopause. We have the fatigue associated and the foggy head. Don't get me wrong, that's in there. And of course, the temperature fluctuations, right?
And one other thing I want to say, about the hair loss is that. So I was told so many times, well, did you have COVID? Oh, well, this is caused because you had COVID. It wasn't, from COVID. It was
Take the
clearly,
pressure off of you.
My hair has grown back. It's thicker than it's probably ever been.
The
with
COVID
that.
scapegoat for just
Right.
everything now,
It's-
right?
it's all
Because it's
from
all a
COVID.
mystery. It's in COVID. Sort of like throw it over there in the garbage can. That file it over there, right?
Right.
Okay. That way we don't have to be responsible for jack.
Just throw a blanket statement over it.
Yes. Yeah. So the nutritional connection. Let's go back to this real quick. Either you're feeding your body with nutrition and building it up, people, or you're starving it with bad calories and dead foods, which basically we're breaking it down, right? And now we get the endocrine disorders, perimenopause. Again, all endocrine organs, especially the thyroid and the ovaries, they love minerals, which is why Abby, you responded so well to that organic magnesium. They love the minerals, but primarily iodine and trace minerals. I want you to think selenium, potassium, because that Easy Mag was loaded with potassium, girl.
Okay.
Loaded with potassium. Zinc and the other ones. And then the adrenal glands, we talked about the vitamin C, natural vitamin C. The adrenal glands live, the majority of the vitamin C is made in the adrenal glands, and the B complex. B complex, whole food B complexes, the minerals, copper, magnesium. And then sodium chloride, right? That's why when you have an adrenal issue, you crave salt. A lot of time with this perimenopause, Abby, did you not crave the salt? You love the salt,
love
right?
salt.
So foods which cause the most damage and stress to the endocrine system, do I even have to mention them, really? Okay, you probably guessed it. Glutens everywhere, right? 4 times since 1985, Cam. Grains, the antibiotics being put on the grains by Monsanto, leaky gut process, right? Okay, processed foods, carbs, sugars. But you notice what I didn't mention? Not at all. Not once did I say damaging foods. Did you hear protein or fats, brother?
Right.
That's where the problem lies, ladies. Menopause, perimenopause. Perhaps it should, women. It should just be said all women, because since the early '70s it was like, okay, no fat diets, because the girls are trying to stay thin. But all women need more protein and they need more fats, and that's what they're not getting. They need to obtain for optimal essential fatty acids and the amino acids. So, that's what they did back in the 70s. In the 70s, first of all, there was no dieting, all right? As far as I remember,
Right.
the dieting started about early 80s. I think my first girlfriend started doing that. And dieting was, they didn't eat, right? I mean, that was it. It's evolved a little bit since then, but I mean, this is what they did, right? But there was no such thing as that in the 70s. Everybody ran around in shorts and skinny legs, right? So what changed? What's the food, damn it? But also everybody went on this low fat, which meant carbs. So when you look at nutrition, we need high amounts of quality EPA and DHA.
Right.
Your fish oils, your flaxseed oils, right? But women are afraid, they run away from that. The monosaturated fats, olive oil. Why does all that beautiful complexion belong over in the Mediterranean? It doesn't, right? The olive skin, where does olive skin come from, right? Olive oil, the Mediterranean diet, right? We're all searching for that. Avocados are another great source. And the new thing now, which I love, because the heart loves, the skin loves, the brain loves, medium chain triglycerides.
Yeah.
Coconut oil,
Yes.
right? Okay. But fats, for optimal function, we need those, right? Low-fat diet, Abby, girls, low-fat diet is actually a hormone disruptor. Cam, we know women, Abby, that are in these particular sports that the female athletes, with the low body fat percentage, they stop menstruating. There's your sign right there. That's how important fats are. Because fats don't make you fat, ladies. Carbs do. Fats don't increase insulin. If you don't increase insulin, guess what? You don't gain weight. So let's do the downhill slide. A lot of information there. Good stuff, right?
Great stuff.
Correlation here. But let's just wind it on down. How we doing time-wise, brother? Okay.
35.
Either way, here we go. So let me just kind of close with this one. As difficult as it may seem finding the answers to the why and how, right, Abby? For perimenopause and menopause. A, they have this correlation. They're both a hormone-related issue. B, they have their origin and connection basically in three primary areas. The gut with the inflammation, the adrenals with the stress, pancreas with the sugar, and the carb-related issues. So it's this scenario that knocks the body out of its natural ability to adapt to life stresses, knocks it out of whack. There we go. Get the endocrine system back online, get it back under control, push back the perimenopause, if at all, right? Because if we don't, we got, like you were talking about, Abby, you got, this leads doctors and specialists to just chase symptoms.
Right.
Until the end of days. Girls, if you have the perimenopause, you know what she's talking about. And with my patients, I see this as well. It's very frustrating because this approach that they're using today has little or no answers for the relief. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Right?
I
Frustrating
had it,
out
there was
to no end.
there was really no relief. It was basically, I was just told, hey, you just got to kind of tough it out.
Go back to
until
the
it stops.
simplicity, people. I mean, go back and just break it down. What's going on? What glands, what organs are involved? What systems are involved? Address it that way and address the system, the glands, and the organs. That's my approach to it. And Abby's an example that worked out very well. I would love to say, yes, the clinical outcomes have been very good. I'll just touch that. Not 100% because nothing in life is, right? Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper. But don't stop with, I don't know, it's part of the change.
Right.
You're getting older.
Right.
All that jive ass, right? Do not accept that. Educate yourself, become aware, and be under control. So, Cameron, I know that was a lot of girly stuff. But Abby, I do appreciate you coming in because
Thanks for
that
having
was
me.
awesome. That was awesome. So again, I just want to say, always remember, stay consciously aware of your awareness of the consciousness. And as always, if you would, have yourself a great day.
So you're not missing one.
Thank you so much. Abby, again, thanks for coming in.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And can I tell everybody that they can
Oh.
reach you? Y'all have a link right now.
Oh, yes. Oh,
attached.
wait a minute. Yes, stop us. Yes, thank you so much. Well, I almost forgot it
Sorry.
again. With the supplements that we talk about, if you can't find them in your area, you don't have a doctor or pharmacist, again, we have a link now down below, right? Link down below.
In the
You can go
description of the YouTube
Yes.
episode.
at the subscription to the YouTube episode, you can go there, puts you directly to the link, my link, where you can find these products. And again, remember, I don't have any financial investment in this company whatsoever. They're just who I've been using over the years because, yes, like we talked about with the magnesium and the Easy Mag, it does make the difference. The quality makes the difference. Organic changes everything, okay? So that's why clinically I can feel very comfortable that the outcome that I'm looking for, I'm obtaining with these products. So again, if you're having difficulty, Cameron just recently put the link up. So there's a link down below. Abby, thank you so much because, again, ADD and ADHD over here, we forget that. So thanks again. Anything else, gang? Till next time. All right. Again, peace out.